Welcome everyone to the final race in the Big Data Beards virtual race to Splunk's .conf 20. Today's race is sponsored by our friends at Splunk, and we travel virtually, of course, to Las Vegas, where .conf this year would have taken place in real life had we not been struck by a pandemic. But it's happening virtually, just like this racing series, and we're going to tackle the road course combined circuit at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I do want to give everybody a reminder to tune in tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific time to the same streaming platform you're on right now. Just make sure and tune in at 6 p.m. for the award ceremony where we find out who wins the overall racing series of the virtual race to .conf. So be sure to tune in 6 p.m. Pacific time on the streaming channel you're watching us on right now. Now, let's check in with Splunk's AVP of Global Partner Marketing and Experience, Brooke Cunningham, to get us started for the race. Brooke, tell us a little bit about why partners are so important to Splunk and your customer success.
Thanks, Corey. I'm delighted to be here, and big shout out to all our partners in the audience. Partners are just so integral to Splunk's overall business strategy. In fact, partners are really right in there supporting our customers, helping with the deployments, the servicing, hosting, and as well as building solutions on top of and including Splunk. So we couldn't do it without our partners. We have over 2,000 active partners, and we're going to see a ton of them involved in this upcoming virtual.conf.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it does start tomorrow, and as you said, it's virtual. It's a little bit different than we've seen in the past. But I'm curious, how are attendees going to be able to engage with partners and that partner ecosystem community this year?
Well, we had to get creative with the virtual format, but I'm really thrilled to say we are going to have all the same goodness that you're used to seeing at an in-person .conf, especially as it relates to seeing all our amazing partners. We have over 50 partners sponsoring, and that's going to be in a virtual showcase where you can engage with partners, learn more about what they're doing, and really get that networking value. And we have over 5,000 partners attending already, and we're going to be about 24% of the total registration makes up partners. So exciting.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of partners showing up. And I know as a former Splunk partner who's visited Conf many times, one of my favorite things to visit every year was that partner lounge.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that happening for those partners that are attending this year?
Oh, yes. That's one of the important things that we do at .conf, not just ensuring that all of our customers get a chance to see our partners and network, but also that we're giving our partners some love. So we do have a virtual partner lounge exclusively for our partners. We're putting together all the great stuff that we normally would, special content, ways to network, access to subject matter experts. The only thing, unfortunately, I have less of is great snacks.
Oh. Man, the snacks are top level, I'll be honest.
Hard to do virtually.
Huge fan, that's right. Well, now I know Splunk has a lot of great partners covering a lot of areas of technology, services, and so on. But I'm curious, how is Splunk actually honoring the best of those partners this year?
Oh, thanks for asking, Corey. So in fact, we actually just ran an annual awards program to recognize and honor the top Splunk partners from the last year. And I'm so pleased to say we had such tough decisions to make. We have so many partners doing amazing things, but we were able to recognize Octave for their top selling support of our customers this year, Carahsoft, our top distributor, Cumulos for their great work in professional services, SVA for doing amazing things in pipeline development, Accenture for amazing solutions that they've developed, and NTT, who's done just great things from a strategic alliance perspective. So a huge congratulations to all of our global award winners from the Splunk ecosystem, and we had a chance to celebrate them in a very special event that we ran just a couple weeks ago.
Very cool. Well, clearly a lot of exciting activity for attendees to engage with partners and for partners to have a lot of fun at this year's virtual.conf. But Now it's time to get the final race underway. This is the final race in the Big Data Beards virtual race to Splunk.conf 20. Today's race sponsored by Splunk. Brooke, do us a favor. Kick us off here.
All right. Well, I'm honored to do this. So ladies and gentlemen, and those who choose not to identify, please Splunk your engine. Woo-hoo!
Welcome to Las Vegas, everyone. The site of what would have been .conf 20 had the pandemic not struck us down and taken us to an all virtual experience. But boy, have we had a lot of fun in the Big Data Beards virtual race to .conf. And congrats, Tom West, leading up the poll there, representing the Big Data Beard team well. How's that feel to take a pole position?
It's great. There's a real tight battle for third place overall in the series. So to get pole position and be able to control that is feeling good.
Absolutely. Well, your car looks great out there leading the track, and the team is away here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Now we're racing the road course combined course today. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Las Vegas Motor Speedway is a traditional NASCAR course in that D shape of a lot of the modern NASCAR courses. But to make it more challenging for these beautiful GT3 cars and these McLarens, we've chosen the road course combined. And that's a course that actually takes into account a large portion of the oval course, but then takes us onto the infield for some classic road racing action. So look for some, as we said, some high-speed straightaways, big banked turns, but then lots of excitement in the infield. Well, today we are actually joined by the entire Big Data Beard team in the virtual commentating booth. So I've got, as you heard already, Tom West, our pole position leader. Also, Kyle Prince. Congratulations on finishing top 5 in the polls today.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm pretty excited to be here. I've been practicing some pretty hard on this track. I think if I can keep that hard left turn into the race course, I think I might do okay here. I don't know. We'll see, though.
Well, we'll see how it turns out. And Brett Roberts. Brett, welcome to the broadcast. How are you today, buddy?
Well, not too happy about, getting in 11th place to start this race, but I have a new strategy for this last race of the virtual race to conf. That is stay behind Kyle, Corey, and Westy and let them battle it out, let them crash, and then sneak in for the win.
Oh, I like that. That's a good challenge.
Yeah, I mean, giving the results from the previous races, I don't think you'll have any trouble staying behind us.
Oh, and the banter begins early, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Kyle and Westy certainly leading up the pack. I was able to come in behind the team in 7th place, so not too good of a showing. But I'm curious, Brett, I'll start with you. What do you think the keys to today's race are? Not just for you, but just for the team in general.
Yeah, Corey, today is all about turn consistency. Kyle talked about this briefly earlier. There is a 90-degree left turn that comes in from a top speed. So you need to make sure that you're hitting your brakes at the right spot. You're turning into that 90-degree turn and then accelerating consistently to stay ahead of the pack.
Kyle, how about you? What do you think the keys to winning this race are going to be?
I think it's a good balance between, being able to finesse the car, but then also being able to punch it pretty well. I think any indication I've had recently on a NASCAR track will tell you I cannot hold it pretty well in a banked turn. If Daytona was any indicator of that. So I think if I can balance those two out well, or if anybody can, they'll end pretty well here.
Yeah, Kyle, I think finesse to you is just bumping a little bit. So just from experience, just bumping a little bit.
Well, Tom, we just saw an overhead view of that crazy 90-degree turn. What else do you think is going to be your keys to the race today?
So I'm battling out with Splunk ES for this 3rd place overall. So the fact we're top 2, as long as I stay in front of him, that's the main thing.
There you go. Well, always fighting for that championship overall. That's a good time. Well, we're going to have you bunch everybody up here, and we're about to go green and let the pace car pull away. And as we've seen in so many of the races, this can where you can really make or break the race overall in this first turn. So congrats. We are away at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, and Corey, Westy has a very interesting tactic. We've seen this in the past where he bunches up and then slams on the brakes and goes really fast. And let's see if it screws up anybody today.
Well, it looks pretty clean there through the first little turn, set of turns 3 and 4 there. So everybody gets out on the oval with not too much drama and gets to stay down on that apron to really get up to speed as rapidly as possible. But, we've got a fall here. Splunk ES car. Oh, Westy, as you said, this is critical. They're taking out a bunch of folks. Brett gets tangled up in the mess. Oh, that is terrible to see. Brett, what happened from your viewpoint there, you think?
I think a little bit too much finesse caused me to crash into somebody.
Yeah, that brings up a whole other point, too. We did have a little bit of a warm-up lap here to go ahead and get our tires up to speed. But, yeah, just a little bit too excitement on that first turn, getting speed into the embankment. That car will just kick out from underneath you.
Absolutely. You see coming into that exit from the oval back into the road course, bunches everybody up there. You're hard in the brakes coming from that top speed. Well, I tell you what, one thing I wanted to mention that happened just before today's race is we had the Splunk Trust announcements about the new members. And Tom West, if you wouldn't mind, just give us a quick, for those that aren't familiar with the Splunk Trust, give us a little background on what that means and what it means to you to be a member of the Splunk Trust.
So it's the main Splunk way of recognizing contributions to the community. So people go above and beyond helping everyone out, whether it's on answers, on Slack, on user groups, things like that. This is the main recognition scheme for those, and excited to be a part of it for a second year. Got in there last year, remain in it, and very proud to be so.
Well, excellent. Well, I want to wish an enormous congratulations to our other two Big Data Beard members who were announced today as newest members. Brett Roberts, Kyle Prinz, congrats on your induction to the Splunk Trust. Kyle, what does that mean for you, buddy?
Thank you so much. I'm really excited, not only from a professional standpoint, community standpoint, but have you seen the Fez? I'm thrilled, man. I'm never taking this thing off. I'm going to have a blast with it. No, but on a serious note, I never really took myself to be the most technical or anything like that, but I think it goes to show, just as long as you get excited about Splunk and you can find creative ways to bring value to the community, the Splunk Trust can reward you and recognize you for that. So we're really excited to be here.
Yeah, Corey, it's such an honor to be recognized. Splunk is such a great community. There's so many people out there that are just always willing to help and add value to the rest of the community. Just being a part of the trust now, it's just a truly remarkable and awesome experience. And to Kyle's point, I don't think I'm going to be taking the Fez off either.
Well, I think they're going to look great on you. It's incredible to have the Big Data Beard represented with 3 Fezes. I am so incredibly proud of you guys, and I'm incredibly proud of all those folks who have been inducted in the Splunk Trust, because we've all been beneficiaries of the great work that you folks do for the community. So thank you very much for that, and congrats. Looking forward to next year you guys showing up in those Fezes, looking strong. Well, I tell you what, we've got some tight action here as we exit that oval course, and we're on board here with McLaren 2. By the way, fun story, that McLaren 2 car piloted by none other than Ben Daly. He's really you may know him on YouTube and Twitter as Tiedmet Marduk, I think is how you pronounce it, something like that. But he's an incredibly famous esports racer, face of a lot of the F1 games, and he was nice enough to join us as part of the McLaren esports team. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, before we go any further into the racing and these McLaren folks get sorted in the sand in Las Vegas, we're going to go check in with our first guest from Splunk today. That's Cinder Sela-Kumar, and he's going to give us a quick update on what's going on at .conf. Well, as we've said, today's race is sponsored by Splunk, and I'm excited to welcome back Cinder Sela-Kumar. He's the Senior Vice President of Cloud and Chief Product Officer for Splunk. Cinder, welcome to the virtual commentating booth.
Thank you, Corey. Excited to be here.
Excellent. Well, when we talked to you back at Tsukuba, you shared that Splunk was excited to announce that cloud adoption has accelerated, and that in this past year you've seen almost 50% of software bookings come from cloud. What does that tell you about what's happening across enterprises today?
Yeah, a few things. One, clearly, maybe perhaps stating the obvious, cloud adoption is here to stay. And I think it's not just, the stat you raised was about adopting Splunk Cloud and our cloud offering. So you could be an on-premises customer consuming our cloud service. You could be a customer consuming our cloud service. So I think the first thing is we are seeing customers, one, adopt our cloud services for sure. The other thing we're seeing is customers adopt cloud to help them with their own infrastructure, whether it's for Splunk-specific stuff or for their own applications. And the thing that's unique there is people are doing that at whatever rate they think is appropriate. So, for example, some customers are saying, I'm going to do a new mobile application. Okay, I'm going to do that cloud native, microservice, got it. But I've also got SAP on premises. I'm going to bring that to the cloud. You're not refactoring SAP, right? So you're going to have to think very differently about that. So I think every customer will go through a set of cloud transformations that make sense for their business at the pace they think is appropriate. And every customer, as you know, in COVID is going through various business issues. So our goal at Splunk is to be there at every part of the journey, and in doing so, help them adopt cloud in the right way.
Brilliant. So one of the things last time we talked when we were in the RV hanging out in person, which
Yeah.
I miss, but hey, this is good to
I
catch
do.
up with you.
We were
one of the
definitely
things
not 6 feet apart, that's for sure.
that RV table was pretty small.
That's right, yeah.
But one of the things that you talked about was that last year you were excited to announce that Splunk Cloud had achieved some FedRAMP certifications, and I'm curious, how has that in the last year, affected your ability at Splunk to go serve federal customers, or even those customers that are desiring similar levels of trust in a SaaS provider?
Yeah, great question. We launched FedRAMP Moderate last fall. We've had lots of customers come on, particularly in the civilian agencies, come on to that environment, which has been good adoption. We've also seen actually commercial vendors who are not, but who serve those same federal civilian agencies, adopt the FedRAMP service because they need to jointly deliver, and their supply chain needs to be FedRAMP certified as well. So that's been a big area of focus. We were this past year we've been accepted into the JAB. There's government acronyms everywhere, so I'll try to spell them out. Joint Authorization Board to pursue JAB on a provisional basis through the FedRAMP Connect program at the moderate level. So that's been a change. It's just a different way of procuring FedRAMP services. So we're going to go through the JAB process, and I think that'll help us expand it to even more customers. And obviously, our goal always is to serve. We love our public sector customers. We want to do our best to do our job there, and so it's really about continuing to expand our certification coverage. And so you'll definitely see more from us in that area. We're certainly investing to broaden our federal compliance coverage for our public sector customers.
Absolutely. And one thing I noticed recently in the last, call it year, or maybe a little bit more, is that really when we think about Splunk Cloud, it's no longer only an AWS offering. Is that right?
Yeah. So we actually formed a great partnership with Google, and so Google Cloud. So currently we run on Google Cloud Platform as well, and we have been we started kind of in Q2 getting customers onto that platform, and we're excited. We're adopting them, and there's a big element to that. It's not just adopting running on those services, but it's also integrating with all the data sources and the things that make sense, like Stackdriver and others on GCP. So we're doing that work as well. So lots of work. You'll see us always expand our cloud coverage, meaning not just the getting data in portion of cloud, but also where we run. And we're going to do that based on customer feedback. I'm brutal about making sure we're customer oriented, and so GCP was all about the customer orientation, and so we'll continue to accelerate, into other providers as customers need that.
Absolutely. Well, Cinder, we're going to get back to the racing action here in just a second, and we'll be back with you later in the race to hear more about cloud products and all the excitement for .conf. Well, that's awesome to hear from Cinder about all the exciting things that are going to be happening at .conf. And I tell you what, I was super excited to see behind the interview there. I was able to lead the race for a little bit there, but then Tom West, looks like you overtook me. What happened, man?
So I've been learning from the data from Silverstone, paying attention to braking, and then just use that knowledge to outbrake you in that 90-degree bend.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Corey, I think to boil down what Tom just said, it's skill.
It's probably true. It is skill. And I'm going to give maybe a point to that McLaren having significantly superior acceleration and braking. But you know what, Tom West, not to take anything away from you. I love that. But Brett, I've noticed one thing that's happened a few times here on this infield is, it's a pretty flat experience with not a lot of forgiveness if you get slightly off the track. How's it feel whenever you touch that sand? How much does that mess with the driving dynamics?
Yeah, Corey, so I can say from experience multiple times that it's not forgiving at all. This composition of sand and gravel right on the outskirts of the track, if you touch it, your tire's going to differentiate and you're going to spin out very easily. So stay away from that sand and gravel into these turns. And if you're like me, on the straightaways as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there we see McLaren getting tangled up in that sand again. It's not too forgiving. You do get into a nasty slide. But I tell you what, it is kind of fun to have that dynamic difference between the oval track racing and the road track. It's super fun here. But it is interesting. We've got a little battle here going on where going from apron versus going up on the oval. It's kind of an interesting idea. Which one's faster? Maybe that's something we could learn a little bit about from the data. Let's go check in with our new resident Splunk Trust member, Kyle Prinz, on a little bit of data deep dive for the race today.
Hey team, I wanted to take a second to take a look at that McLaren car taking over the Aero car, because we seem to have a little bit of a discussion there on whether taking that embankment is better for total lap time versus hanging down in the apron like the Aero car did. Let's dive in. So what I did was I went ahead and pulled up our total speed out of that, and here we have in the teal color is the McLaren car, and in the darker blue is the Aero car. And what you can actually see is that the McLaren car actually had a little bit of a braking or throttle issue there. We'll take a look at that later. But overall, the McLaren was able to achieve a higher top speed for that and able to let them pull away from the Aero car. It appears that hanging in the embankment and using that extra time to get up to a higher speed is better for an overall lap time. Let's take a look at the throttle real quick to see what happened there as well. Okay, and you can see here that the McLaren car actually had a little bit of a throttle mishap. Probably just let it off to readjust their foot. And even with that was able to achieve a faster top speed and pull away from that Aero car there. So a takeaway from this is when you are heading out into the oval is to go ahead and take that embankment to achieve faster lap time. Back to you.
Well, thanks, Kyle, for that insight. I don't know which way it's going to lean me one way or the other, but I think staying off the sand still feels like one of the most important things that we can do on the track to keep ourselves in the runnings here. And it looks like the leaderboard hadn't changed too much. We got Buttercup leading the way, putting a nice little gap between himself, Westy, and me. And then the rest of the pack is pretty tight there in the top, really, call it 10 positions or 9 positions. Really close racing here. So it's nice to see. But I tell you what, the team here is really excited because, you know what, folks? We had happened today was one of the world's largest boss of the knock, boss of the sock in history. And just want to give a big shout out to the Splunk teams and the community that put that together, and also to all of those of you who competed and participated in it. Hopefully you had some fun. And as you look going forward, if you saw it today, the boss of the knock scenario, there was actually some stuff from the Big Data Beard. Brett, I know you had a big part in putting some of that together. What was it like to actually build a scenario and have that represented at such a grand scale in today's Boss of the Knock?
Yeah, Corey, it was really cool. It was a fun way of taking a very lively data set and helping, create this almost scavenger hunt, so to speak, of the racing data from our Tsukuba race that just took place a couple days ago. So it was really cool to make the questions to kind of help, build the scenario, but then also see how everyone got to interact with it.
Absolutely. Well, there you can see the Splunk IT car getting around me there. What wasn't too much fun to see, to get past, but it looks like I'm still able to just stay a little bit ahead of Ben Daly. John Hayward piloting that Splunk IT car and doing it well. You see me there struggling a little bit with the sand. That's going to be the story of the race, I think, for a lot of us, is trying to stay out of the sandbox. Sounds like my golf game. Oh, Brett, what happened here? You got a little bit tangled up with the fence.
Yeah, it looks like I had a fight with the fence, and the fence won there, and I'm a little stuck, and I can't get out, so it looks like I might have to get a little bit of a tow.
Oh, no, that is not good. You can see the fence stuck in there, but I tell you what, that's some great views of the Freedom BMW on display. Thank you for your service to our country, Brett, and thank you for having such a beautiful BMW to represent it. Well, here we come out of the oval action and dive right back into the road course, and you can see, oh no, Splunk I2, who was doing so well, they're just missing that turn as you try to go too wide. Really not a forgiving place to try to go too wide.
Yeah, Corey, going back to the keys of the race, that 9-degree turn is so critical.
Oh, man, there you go. Remember we talked about keys to the race, stay out of the sand? Well, there's me in it 2 times, losing those positions, and I had a great chance to put a gap between myself and that Splunk IT car who bounced off the wall.
Yeah, Corey, you might have to change your name to David Hasselhoff because you're spending a lot of time in the sand today.
Oh, that's tough. Well, that Splunk IT car is no good. They're actually having to go in for the pits. Must have had some damage to the front that's actually going to make it just impossible to continue to drive, especially when we get into these oval speeds. Any of that slight damage to the front end just makes it super challenging. Here you can see my struggles in keeping the car on the racetrack in the sand. I'm glad we're getting to see this in replay. It makes me feel really confident that I'm going to do well today. Ben Daly getting past me there, showing how to keep it on the dry land, so to say. Well, everybody, we want to also give you a chance to get in on the racing action. This is not just about the virtual race.conf. Going forward, Starting on Tuesday, we have the very first race in the Big Data Beards Beat the Beards competition. And for those of you who haven't heard us talk about it, you can head over to the bigdatabeard.com, click on virtualrace2.conf, and click on the logo for Beat the Beards, and you'll find all the information. But basically, we're opening it up to have a virtual race to include you, not a virtual race using iRacing, and you're allowed to jump in and race with us in a championship series. There we see our Buttercup leader actually spinning, losing much of that gap that they had created.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here, Corey, is, we're starting to lose fuel here, so the cars are getting lighter. We're starting to see some tread wear on the tire marks. So we're starting to see a lot of what should be grippy experiences on the track become slick and, just devastating screw-ups. So it'll be an interesting second half of this race from that as well.
Wow, absolutely. Everybody going off there. We saw the Intel car and Juan Fernandez going off track. Ben Daly struggling as he gets out of that road course section. And then we actually even saw Dan McEwen here just a moment ago actually sliding off as well. Oh, look at there. Looks like Ben might have been able to get around clean, but the Intel car just starts a spin as they're breaking into that corner.
Yeah, Corey, and with this track only being just a little bit over 2 miles, lap traffic is going to start taking a toll now in this 45-minute race, and we saw that there as the McLaren car was trying to get around the Intel car.
Absolutely. Call those back markers, I think, is what the pros call them, those folks who are a lap down. You really got to try to be kind and let the folks on the lead lap get around you without causing them too much impedance. But back to the Beat the Beards, we are actually doing a 2-race play-in series where each of the first race is October 20th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. The second race is October 21st at 5 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. And we're doing that so that we have a chance for our global audience to participate in the races. We'll limit those to the first 60 folks who sign up to each race. We'll be able to race in heat races to join us. And the top 10 racers from each of those 2 play-in races, the top 10 from each, so a field of 20, will join the Big Data Beard team to race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This road course combined that you're seeing here will race for the championship to beat the Beards.
And Corey, I'm going to call this redemption for me in the Freedom Car. As you can see, the showing's not been great today and really in the entire Virtual Race to Conf, but when it comes to Beat the Beards, you're going to have a challenge trying to beat me.
All right, Brett's going to be he wants to be the top beard. I think he can do it, folks. He's got a lot of practice on this track.
Number one beard.
Number one beard. I like it. Well, there you can see the what happens if you go off track. Oh, and look, Westy losing a position there. What happened, Westy?
So I just took it too fast around there, but by the looks of it, your car doesn't look too good either, Corey.
Enjoying a little beach vacation there, Corey.
I am really channeling my Hasselhoff, Brett. I think you were accurate that is my new nickname. If I only had his svelte dad bod.
Yeah, I think this left turn in is going to start to be a huge, interesting point for us in this race. Just again, with the dynamics of the cars changing there, the tires losing wear, losing fuel, and losing weight of the car. I think that is going to be a really interesting area to watch for us.
Absolutely. Well, I've done enough damage that I'm actually going to have to go into the pits and get that front end repaired because, again, if you get that kind of damage, this simulator just is not forgiving at speed when you have damage.
Yeah, and I personally, I appreciate you doing that and being a responsible driver and going ahead and pitting because I was able to benefit from that and start to head up into 4th place there.
Well, congrats on taking the position. And candidly, it was all self-inflicted there as I bounced off that barrier wall on the entrance to the road course. So, Tom West, it looks like one of your goals today was to stay out in front of the Splunk ES car. Looks like that's happening pretty well as long as you can maintain some consistency. One other thing I wanted to call attention to for everybody is, we are excited about .conf. This whole series was intended to get everybody excited, amped, and extend the fun that is .conf. And one of the things that all 4 of us are excited about, not only the 3 gentlemen who've been announced as Splunk Trust members, which is incredibly cool and honoring, but we've all got presentations happening at .conf this year. And we actually have, I think, if you are into motorsports and you're into the things that we're into as part of this Big Data Beard team, I think we've got your afternoon on Tuesday all sewn up. Kyle, why don't you do us a favor? Our session is at 2 p.m. Why don't you tell them a little bit about what we're going to go over in our session?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with kind of the Big Data Beard team and what we've done in previous years around our adventures to .conf, we're taking this year's spin and taking a look at the hows, what's, and whys on our virtual race to .conf. So we're going to talk a little bit of why we built it, and then also dive into the technology of the how we did it, when we did it, and what we used to do that. We're also going to showcase the script and what we use used to build it, and then offer a link up to that as well. So if you want to play with the data yourself, maybe stand up your own iRacing instance and pump that into Splunk, you're fully encouraged to do that as well.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to be both Kyle and I presenting that one. It's Splunk for You track 1337 is the session ID. I think it's called, ladies and gentlemen, Splunk Your Engines. And just in 30 minutes after we wrap up, we've got Tom West giving his presentation. Westy, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about at .conf?
So I'm going to be ripping apart one of my apps that I've got on the Splunk-based site, all about debugging searches, and this is going to be to help show you how to write your own custom scripts, best practices around things like login, how to optimize things like visuals, so visuals that we've even seen for the virtual race, how you can do that with your own apps, and then apply some CI/CD at the end. The idea being that you will have everything that you need to create your own apps as and when you need.
Brilliant. That's going to be fun. I can't wait to see that. Getting everybody to get better at writing their own searches. That's always helpful. And then Brett, you're following right behind Westy at the very next session. You've got to talk. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what yours is going to be on?
Yeah, Corey, and just to end the day with the Big Data Beard, my talk is going to be on Splunk architecture best practices. And as we all know, Splunk is one of those applications that grows, and we're going to explore a typical evolution of a Splunk deployment and talk about how it grows from a performance and capacity standpoint, and then review some of the architecture best practices and deployment considerations for a growing Splunk.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, I tell you what, the racing action, we've seen a shakeup in that top 10 board so far, where Buttercup continuing to pad their gap a little bit, Westy continuing to stay out in front, but that McLaren 2 car has really been daily putting on some show here in competitive racing. Love to see that. Hate to see that for you, though, Kyle, getting passed by him. What happened? How did he get by you?
I hate to say he's a better driver, but, I should probably keep my day job on that one.
Well, I think it is his full-time job. I think he's got over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube and is fully focused on esports. So the fact that we're even in the race with him is pretty stinking cool. Let's be real honest.
I consider it an honor to be passed by him, but no, it's being able to link those turns together, stay in a consistent force around the track, and not make little sloppy mistakes that can really cost you those few seconds to gain you a pole position like that. So hey, maybe I can learn a little bit and learn from my mistakes with Beat the Beards going forward. So expect a little bit tougher race here in the coming days.
Yeah, well, Westy looking like he's having a little trouble there. Spent some time in the sand, but it looks like you made a good move there, which is you just kind of let it ride, keep it straight, just go on through it rather than trying to turn while you're in that slippery stuff. Well, here we see this is going to be a big change up. That McLaren 2 car, Ben Daly suffering some damage here. He's actually racing against this. This is actually the Dell Technologies car. Dell made a slight mistake in their entry and getting the wrong car, so they're actually driving the BMW, but they just slide that McLaren 2 car off. That's tough. The Dell car being a back marker, as we said before, sliding Ben Daly off track.
Well, it's absolutely terrible for Ben, but let's see what I can do to try and capitalize on top of that. Maybe I can push myself further ahead to try and make it a bit of an effort for him to try and catch up and pass me again.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, looks like we've got Buttercup leading the way. That's Stephen Landry piloting that machine today. Westy and Kyle bringing it up in second and third. Kyle, I'm super excited to see you up there in the third place position. Let's hope you can hold on to it. Well, we've got lots more racing action, because this is actually, we forgot to say, one of our 45-minute races. So you can see there in the timer a little bit of a longer race today format as we wrap up things here before we go to .conf. Now let's go check in with Tom West and do a little bit of a tech overview for today's race.
Thanks team, and welcome to today's tech overview. Special thanks to our race sponsor today, Splunk, and what I'd like to do is give you a very brief overview as to what metrics are within Splunk and why you might want to use them. If you've not come across them before, they basically consist of three things. The first being the time, the second being a measurement or a group of measurements, and these are the values that you're really wanting to capture. These are the metrics. that you would use to report on, alert on, display. They're your main things. And then you've got dimensions, and these are used typically to filter and identify those values that you're really looking for. And there are a few different ways you want to use them, or you might want to use them. The reason that we're using them within the virtualracer.conf is because searching across metrics is so quick when you compare them to searching across events. And I just want to show you exactly what I mean by that. We've got this query where we're going to load all the distance, lap time, incident counts for all our racers for an earlier race in the series at Laguna Seca. We've previously run this query and we can see there are over 263,000 events. On an all-in-one instance that we're using, we would expect that to take a little bit of time to go and produce the results. Now, because we've stored all our results in metric format, it becomes a lot quicker. And I'll show you just how quick it is by executing the search. And within a second, we've reloaded all those values for us to use. And I can't speak highly enough of exactly why you would want to use metrics if it's an appropriate use case to do so. If you would like to know more about metrics and how to apply them if you haven't already done so, then I really do recommend checking out the Splunk Docs website, which gives a plethora of information all around how and why and benefits of using metrics. Special thanks again to Splunk for sponsoring today's race, and thank you very much for watching. Back to you in the studio.
Well, thanks, Westy. It's good to get familiar with what metrics are and why they're interesting to use in context of certain data types, and certainly have been helpful to speed things up for a lot of the work we're doing here in the virtualracer.conf. And that's really the story behind the Splunk platform, is its flexibility to deal with all sorts of data and data types and really bring value and insights to everything. That's the data to everything platform. And we want to say thanks again to our sponsor for today's race, Splunk, for making this happen as our title sponsor for the entire racing series. And a big thanks to all of our sponsors who've participated in supporting the race and having racers out here with us, and for helping us to get this thing off the ground. That's been a lot of fun. But I wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that while the virtualracer.conf action is wrapping up today, this is the final race you're seeing here at Las Vegas as we prepare for .conf starting tomorrow. We have one more thing left to do, and that is to crown the winners of the virtualracer.conf. And we've got a tight running here for who's going to take P1, P2, and P3, and we're going to be awarding those winners right after this broadcast ends on the same streaming platform you're watching this video on. Stay tuned, and we've got a cool award ceremony prepared for you that's going to have our 3 winning teams and some good highlight footage of the racing. But speaking of highlight footage, I wanted to get just the 3 of your perspective on maybe some of your favorite memories of the virtualracer.conf and the racing action, and what was been really maybe your highlight moment. And Kyle, I'll start with you. What's been your favorite thing to see as you participated in this race?
I think for me, it's just been the natural progression of getting comfortable with iRacing, and then being able to go all the way from not understanding any of the rules of the road to being able to complete a first lap to being able to start to race as well.
So today,
it's been
Kyle?
really good. Oh yeah, that's pretty rich, Brett, coming from 11.
Burn. I like it. But
No,
Kyle, I will
it's,
say this is surprising though, because you know what, to say that it's kind of a, what do we call it, a Cinderella story, where you've literally gone from not knowing much about the track to in 3rd place here today. That's got to feel pretty good. Well, Tom West, I'm curious from your perspective.
So from me, it's also about been growing all the way through. The race in Bathurst especially was a highlight for me, having broken the course so early on and still taking it through to a podium finish. That's something that I will look back on with a big smile on my face.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it feels good to win, and that's honestly my highlight for the entire racing series, was that one time that I won, and I'll never let you forget it. It was at Tsukuba. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was awesome, and to win was incredible. And in full candor, as we were preparing the Boss of the Knock scenario for the team and for you all to enjoy. The Big Data Beard team was going through the data and kind of having some consternation over, okay, which data set is the cleanest and easiest, which one makes the most sense. And selfishly, I may or may not have really been a strong supporter of Tsukuba being the data source for our boss of the knock scenario. And that's because I won, and I wanted you all to remember it and never forget it. And so that's my way of cementing it. So winning the race and then
Nothing to
getting
do with the data cleanliness or anything, right? It was completely you, right?
completely.
Wanted to have his name on the dashboard.
I need validation, because clearly today is not going to be my day for validation, as I'm back in the pits for the second time. Pretty sure this was some nasty action that happened. Yeah, we may or may not get to see this again. Okay, we are going to get to see it. So looks like we're coming through the oval section and trying to take a pass on the inside. Intel car gets a little bit loose in front of me, and oh my gracious, look at the flipping action there. Intel's still flipping over the side wall. Oh my goodness, that's maybe some of the best flips I've seen on the entire race.
Well, good on to Intel to have the situational awareness to get off the track so that the other racers can drive by after the accident.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's certain ways to get off the track, and that's not the one they would choose.
Yeah, Corey, I've heard, rubbing is racing, but I think you're taking it to a whole other level here, my friend. This is pretty messy.
I'm not going to say I'm faultless in this one. It was aggressive. It was a pass. Intel may have gotten loose, and I may have been too close, so I don't want to point fingers, but I will accept some blame here.
Well, hopefully you don't have a Ricky Bobby moment and running right out on the racetrack as well,
That's true. It happens, but that's all right. Intel was able to find their ways back to the pit, and so am I. And candidly, I don't think it's going to impact the leaders too much.
Yeah, Corey. So, your greatest moment was winning a race. Obviously, with my awesome driving skills, that's never going to be a moment for me in the virtual racing conf. But mine was actually just coming in 6th and being in the top 10. And then also just driving Le Mans, driving that historic track, the long straightaways, and then going through the Porsche turns where a lot of the other drivers had issues with those turns, being able to take those turns fairly easily.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely love that straightaway of Le Mans on the back because it messed with you with how long it was. And then it was counteractive with the Porsche turns where I just could not stay on the track. I had the biggest struggle with those. I think it was the dichotomy of the two. Like I love that track, but I am not good at it at all.
Yeah, well, that's the fun of this racing series. Is we actually picked some more, obviously some historic tracks, but very challenging tracks that would push drivers to have both skills, not only the ability to drive fast and in kind of big oval bank turns and straightaways like we saw in the Mulsanne Straits at Le Mans, but also to be able to control the car in these tight, twisty courses, places like Tsukuba that's basically a go-kart track with big old GT3 cars on it. So love seeing that. Well, I'll tell you what, the other thing I'm curious to hear from you guys is, as we see the leaders here, really kind of stay in a position. It seems like 1, 2, 3 are pretty well sewed up here and consistent. I'm curious, what are some of the most interesting things you learned from the data as we use Splunk to really uncover insights in the racing action? Tom West, I'll start from your perspective. What's maybe the most interesting thing you learned from the data?
How high my heart rate goes when I'm actually playing and racing across. Comparing it to exercise, climbing mountains, carrying buggies, and still being a similar level to racing was a big surprise to me.
Absolutely. It's a physical experience, surprisingly. Kyle, I'm curious, what's your favorite thing you learned from the data?
Yeah, I learned how bad I was at taking turns. I still have a good bit of work to do with taking turns. I feel like I've gotten pretty comfortable with sim racing with that, but being able to have quick insights into what does a good turn look like from a data perspective has been really beneficial for me.
Absolutely. Brett, and you, what have you learned by examining the data about your own racing?
Oh, well, a lot. That I'm not good, first and foremost. Let's just start there. But really, it's not about top speed. It's about consistent speed and consistent speed in the turns. I've learned that don't go for the gold every time. Go for a proper turn or at a proper speed, and that will get you where you need to be.
Absolutely. Well, that's really my the thing that the data told me about my racing was that I'm a very defensive driver. Oh, look here, we got Brett holding up. That's the lead car, Buttercup, getting tied up with Brett. Oh, and then Brett out. Looks like the Splunk ES car getting banged up there as well. Brett, looks like that turn in from the oval caused a little bit of challenge. What was going on there?
Well, I wasn't following my own keys to the race. I just could not take that turn properly. I was doing a decent job taking that turn for the first 30 minutes of the race or so, but just, a little fatigue at the end and just, a little complacency caused me to crash, and I apologize to the lead car.
I think it'll be okay. Well, let's go check in with Cinderella Kumar about the things that he's excited to see at .conf and what you all should be expecting out of that awesome conference. We are back with Cinderella Kumar, as we said, Senior Vice President for Splunk Cloud and Chief Product Officer. Now, Cinder, I want to get your perspective on what are some of the exciting trends that people should be looking for as we go into some of the product announcements. I don't want to give it too much away about the keynotes, but in terms of trends, what do we expect to see?
Yeah, well, certainly cloud is a piece we talked about earlier. That's kind of one pillar. Another one is just, and you've been with, you sort of used Splunk for a long time, as have I. And the nature of how data computation happens at a company is changing. Like, for example, we didn't pervasively use object stores like we do today. Like, everybody's using S3 now, or GCS or others, or Azure Blob Store. We're also seeing the nature of data computation change. 25 years ago, everything was in a data warehouse or in a relational data store. Now things are in object stores, in document stores, in memcache systems, it's just a broad plethora. So you're going to see us, as a sort of second theme, expand the data engines and the options available for customers to pursue those data problems. Yeah. So when we talk about that complexity that's happening and the different needs that are happening at Splunk, we're not trying to be myopic about you must do it our way. Our goal is to provide our customers the full set of offerings so they can get to their data problems as best as possible with the right solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the third,
go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was saying, and the third is just, as I mentioned earlier, we're making a lot of investment on our practitioner solutions. A big focus on security via our mission control offering and really bringing those worlds together. And then obviously in our observability and IT suites as well. So we'll talk about that at conf.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked with Doug about this idea that we live in a data age now. And I'm curious, how does some of the, the analyst thinking, but just frankly, what's going on in the world in terms of data inference, how does that really impact your team's thinking about what you build next into the Splunk platform?
Yeah, great question. We are, as I mentioned earlier, we're brutally customer oriented. So it's all about getting value from data as fast as possible. And that's one of the reasons does having more data in the system provide more value? Not necessarily. It all depends on what you're doing with that data, which is partly why we actually are adding the workload-based pricing in the cloud for customers to go to that pricing model versus having to think about data ingest. I love it. I think every customer that's tried it has loved it. But back to the question, in terms of us, we look at what is the customer doing with the data? What decisions are they driving? What insights are they driving? How fast can they drive that? So time to value, accuracy, velocity of that data. We look at all those pieces, and we think about what are the things we need to do as a product organization to accelerate that and just make it easier for a customer. Because for a customer, it's all about going from data to insights as soon as possible, and frankly, working with that data. So we think about collaboration, we think about orchestration. We really want to internalize ourselves in the customer experience and make sure that our products are delivering against that. And we've done that in lots of areas. We've got plenty more to do, and I think it'll never stop in that effort. And that's our big focus. In fact, I'll give you a very concrete example of that. Mission control is the idea that we bring a common work surface for our security operations team. And the reasons we're doing that is because we're seeing this proliferation of cloud security posture monitoring. We're seeing services from the cloud security providers. We're seeing endpoint things happen, identity access management. They're all in different consoles. And it's nice to have the data come into a SIM, for example. But the next logical step is not just data consolidation, but what's about workflow consolidation? So you don't have to go through 50 panes of glass, copy virus total information from one thing to another thing. We want to make it easy, and that's really our goal with mission control and tying to the way customers operate.
Oh, very cool. Well, I'm super excited to hear more about the products. I think as we think about cloud, how we deal with the massive amounts of data coming from edge computing, think about how we process it in streams, it's going to be very exciting. Now, conf is clearly a little bit different this year, but it being virtual opens up a lot of opportunities. I'm curious, what are you excited to see this year in conf being delivered in such a unique way?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the interactivity model. When we were at conf, you can meet a customer at a bar or at a restaurant. You'd be a one-on-one pairwise communication. The same is true for customers interacting with other customers, and or in sessions, or even in one-on-one meetings, offline, if you will. I think the ability to have the digital experience perhaps can afford us an opportunity to be more multicast in how we engage everybody. Speaking of us being on a webcast, so it's being able to do multicast, right? So the idea that, yeah, I can talk to now not 20 people or one-on-one, I can talk to 100 people or 200 people. And I think that just creates a lot more connections and opportunities for learning, frankly, for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm curious. Now, this is obviously a racing series. I'm curious. Have you had a chance to do any of this racing sim driving yet? Has that broached into your realm of consciousness, or are you sticking only to track time?
Well, it is on my list. I have not done the virtual yet. I will say that we did do some track time recently, and with McLaren, and that was very, very cool, very fun. And I was super nervous. I was telling the McLaren driver, I was like, if I go too slow, do I get a ticket for this? Because I might just go too slow. I don't want to insult the car. It's like the car's probably like, who's this guy? But I did all right. It's a beautiful car, and so we're excited about our partnership with McLaren as well.
Absolutely. Well, you feel bad because, I mean, these cars are many, hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially, and the ones that you're talking about, McLarens, they're beautiful machines. And
beautiful.
Man,
they're like works of art, right, Corey?
Oh,
they're
they
works
are.
of art.
And but the thing is they're an instrument for speed. Like they're incredible. And I will say the iRacing platform that we're using is something that McLaren has partnered with. We actually talked with Lando Norris earlier in the racing series, but it's one you got to check out because it is incredible how they've translated the feeling and the performance physics of the cars into the real life. And you're going to see a lot of McLarens, all but 2 cars in the virtualrace.com for the McLaren rig. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Very cool. I'll definitely check it out.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Cinder, hanging out with you in an RV or hanging out with you in our home offices virtually, it is always good to catch up with you, sir. I hope you have a great conf, and we'll see you on the stage. But we're going to now check back in to see how this final race turns out. Well, a big thank you to our sponsors at Splunk. And Cinder, thank you so much for sharing with us the exciting things you have in store for us as Chief Product Officer, and the incredible innovation I'm sure we're going to see over the next few days that the Splunk team is doing. That is super exciting. And I want to make sure that everybody is aware that we do have podcasts released each day as part of this virtualrace.conf over on the Big Data Beard podcast channels. And today's podcast, we actually invited Ryan Plass from the Splunk Trust to talk about the Splunk community, the Splunk Trust, and why it's such a great, really advocacy group for a technology that is really capable of achieving all sorts of impacts across business, and obviously in some fun use cases as well. So definitely check it out on your favorite podcast app. Just search Big Data Beard and you'll find all those episodes on your favorite podcast app. And also, if you've enjoyed this racing action and you want to make sure that you see the fun of the Big Beat the Beards, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or whatever streaming platform you're watching this on now. But there you can see a little bit of racing action we got between myself and Ben Daly, really fighting it out as we're getting around a car that's a lap down. And it looks like we just got a little bit too aggressive, and all of us are going to pay the price. Me looking like maybe I think I may have gotten the worst of that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit that whole pole pretty hard there, and it did not budge at all, Corey.
Absolutely. Well, as a front-engine car, unlike these McLarens that are mid-engine, I think that may be the end of that car's viability on the racetrack. I think I may be on fire.
You just hate to see that happen, but, welcome to the fun part of the pack with me, Corey.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think I'm going to get it quite back a few laps, but I tell you what, it looks like the leaders, this 1, 2, and 3, are really the only folks on the lead lap. And with lap times really in the low, sort of 1 minute range, it's going to be challenging for any of those cars to make up that big of a gap. So looks like those positions may be sewed up pretty well.
Yeah, and Kyle, in third place right now, what's going through your mind?
Don't screw it up.
Oh, speaking of don't screw it up, Westy off in the beach in second place. That could spell some disaster for his P2 position there. Let's see if Kyle can capitalize. Westy, what was going on, man?
I was hearing all the carnage behind me and trying to focus more on not screwing up, and then I ended up screwing up. But I'm looking in my rearview mirror right now at Kyle, wondering where he is and panicking that I'm going to get past.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We'll
and
see.
right during this moment in the race too, I was really nervous of like, do I go and attack Westy or do I try and stay back and play conservative as well? And I think I'm going to take the conservative route and just try and keep third rather than try and beat second here.
There you go. Well, there you see Buttercup coming across the line. Looks like that's going to be it, folks. Congratulations to the Splunk Buttercup team for another win in this one at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And Westy coming around, going to enter the road course track. Westy, how's this feel to be coming around and sewing up a second place finish?
It feels great. It's a more than what I could have hoped for. I know that we started in pole position, but this a long race needs consistency, and that's something that I sorely lacked throughout all of this series. So to put in a consistent performance on one of the longest tracks is definitely feels good.
Excellent. Well, that is a beautifully painted McLaren car there. Love what you did with it. And thanks to the team at Hippo Digital for supporting us. And Kyle with another one of those beautiful McLarens, buddy. Congratulations. Is this your first podium?
This is my first podium. I'm pretty pumped for it. I just hate it so late in the race, but yeah, excited.
Absolutely. Well, let's go check in with Westy on what the data tells us about the racing action.
Hello everyone and welcome to the last post-race data analysis here at Vegas. Now in this section previously we've gone and confirmed the myth that a clean race is a fast race. I've kind of been a bit concerned about my heart rate as we've been doing all this, and we've been looking at incidents in races, analysing certain parts of the track to see if we can improve our performance. And I want to give a big shout out to Kyle for being the latest member of the Big Data Beard team to get on the podium. Unfortunately that just leaves Brett, and because we're all one in a team here, we want to actually have a look at our data to see if we can help our friend Brett in improving his performance, getting him closer to those podium places. So if we dive into the dashboard, we're going to have a look at lap 10. Lap 10 is quite an interesting one because we've got both Brett and Corey with a fastest lap of the race for them. Myself and Kyle are within a couple of tenths away from our fastest. So it seems like a good lap of which to analyse. And Brett being the dark blue line, we're displaying speed across the length of the lap. There's three things that come to mind. The first is this big drop in speed as we go through the first set of turns. We've got a slightly different curve as we go around the oval. I know Brett's racing a BMW, however so is Corey. So we would expect him and Corey's data especially to be quite similar. And we've also got a big dip with one area of the back part of the road course. So if we have a look here at the inputs to see what's actually happening there, we're gonna have a look at throttle first, and we can notice that there's some big dips in throttle input as we go through the oval. Now normally with iRacing, because it is so realistic, a lot of cars such as your Mazdas, your lower spec cars, you would have to let go of the throttle in order to change gear. With the McLarens, the BMWs, you don't need to do that, and I suspect that that's probably somewhere where we can get a bit of a gain and why we're seeing these dips in the first place. And the second bit that we really see a big anomaly is within the acceleration out of the first corner after we come out of the oval and into the back end of the road course. We can see that Brett, he's the only one that doesn't seem to be at 100% any point, being quite conservative with his racing input there. Now he could be trying to get past a back marker or something along those lines. Especially around that part of the track, it is quite slippy as well. So certainly somewhere where I would be looking to improve time as we have a look at the data. And if we look into brakes, the other thing that we can see is the first dip that we saw with speed seems to be just purely down to braking input. He's multiple times hitting 100% on brake input, whereas if we have a look at Corey, Kyle and myself, we're all verging less than 50% pretty much. So again, really, really different, and certainly would explain a lot of that drop in speed for the start. And again, with the last part, with that other dip straight after the oval, we can see that Brett is on 100% for the entirety of the corner on the brakes, whereas Corey is towards the back end of that corner, Kyle towards the middle, and myself as well towards the middle. So if I was looking for 3 places where I could really improve my time, those would be the bits that I would look at. But that's what we've gone and found, and that's how we're wanting to try and help Brett. If you can find something that would help Brett as well, please let us know. Thank you very much for watching, and back to you at the studio.
Hey, thanks, team. What an exciting race from Las Vegas in that crazy combined road course and oval. A lot of action, a lot of lead changes, a lot of stuff going on there. But I want to congratulate our winners. Steve Landry, congratulations on taking the pole. Tom West, Kyle, congratulations on your finishing in the top 3. It's so nice to see the Big Data Beard boys enjoyed. Steven, curious from your perspective, how does it feel? What was what's your one takeaway from such a wild and crazy race?
Yeah, this one, so I ran Daytona. This one was far crazier. I thought Daytona was going to be wild. This was wild. The number of times I had to avoid people going into the little hairpin down there, absolutely nuts how many cars were sideways in that corner. I have no idea how I made it through with only 1 or 2 scratches.
Well, congrats. Well, Tom West, I know there was a few walls that had jumped out in front of you at some point and affected your steering. But how did you come back from that sort of a situation where I don't think you were currently driving at the 0 degree marker?
So yeah, I got hit pretty hard by a back marker, and that significantly affected the steering. Was kind of grateful I didn't hit any of the walls, and I think experience based on the previous race, where I pretty much had the whole lot of the broken steering wheel, kind of gave me the confidence to go, yep, do you know what, I can actually go and take this the rest of the way. Was paying very careful attention to my lap times, and figured that it was just about drivable, but it was very hard.
So the data gave you insight that you could continue. That's awesome. Kyle, this is a welcome experience to have you here join us. Was today about incredible amounts of skill finally being recognized, or was it a bit of luck, or maybe a little bit of both?
Way too much luck. The team that we had in there, Simon Yep, Ben Daly, just the team at McLaren, I capitalized on their misfortunes, and fortunately ran a consistent race and took a page out of your book of being a little bit defensive and not exactly trying to win the race in turn 1. So, work through the back markers, be safe, and then just had some misfortunes from some other racers, which ended me up here.
Now, obviously, this race is a hybrid track, right? We had some of the oval, the inside part of the track. Stephen, what was your strategy going into that very daunting 90-degree left-hand turn to get into the track, while also trying to defend yourself from some drivers that are not as skilled as the 3 of you are?
My strategy was, if there was somebody behind me, let them go, let them blow through the corner, and then go on by really slow. That was my strategy the whole race, and it worked because they kept going by and hitting the wall, and I was like, all right, well, this is working well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Wes, did you change your strategy at all coming into this race, or did you kind of keep it the same, consistent laps, try and stay away from some of the drivers that are more dangerous in the turns?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the practice, and I was having a look at how my lap times compared, and they were pretty high. So figured, go as hard as possible. I was lucky enough in qualifying to hit pole position, which then allowed me to dictate the pace of the race. There were some winners and some losers with that. Stephen did amazingly well to keep up with pace on that. Got us pretty soon afterwards. There was some certain luck there as well on certain bends.
Yeah. Now, Kyle, you talked a few seconds ago about taking a page out of Corey's book in the defensive driving. I saw a little dance you just did about a minute or 2 ago as well. Did you take a page out of his book on dancing as well?
Yeah, there's only so much you can do in the confines of the seat. I might have to talk to my wife about some new dance moves and see what we can come up with while seated.
No, that's fine. But
in case I ever podium again.
No, absolutely. But in all seriousness, what do you think the turning point in the race was for you, where you kind of moved into third? Like, what was that turning point for you?
Yeah. So to be honest, third place had to pit, so I was able to cut right into third. I had Ben Daly behind me and closing in quick, and fortunately, a back marker got him. And so we were able to, he had to pit. So I built up a bit of time around there and was able to hold him off until the end. But yeah, he absolutely had faster lap times than me, but was able to just have a little bit more consistent and a little bit safer race. So I think that really helped me.
Nice. Well, congratulations to all three of you. Incredible job. I do want to say what a wild series this has been. Huge thanks to our sponsors. And I'm curious from each of you, like if you had to go back and say like my one favorite moment of this series or your experience in the race, Stephen, what was your favorite moment of all the races you participated in?
Boy, that's tough. I would say running at Le Mans for me, that was a lot of fun with everybody. I wasn't the fastest. Car was a handful to drive, and it was really cool there with everyone. Nice.
Tom West, what about you? What's your favorite memory, favorite moment in the seat at the virtual race to conf?
Bathurst. I've been lucky enough that I've been positioned quite high on a few races, but Bathurst, having broken the steering on lap 1, getting it out to the end, and still get a podium finish for me is my favorite.
Kyle, I'm curious. You have to tell us what's your favorite. What is it? What's your favorite moment? Is it now?
It should be pretty obvious, man. It's this one. I love this track. We've been practicing it for a while, and it's just always been my favorite. I think just the mixture of the road course and the oval as well, so you get a little bit of a break, but you still get to have the speeds, but then the technicality. So yeah, third place here from a race perspective has been my absolute favorite here. From a tech perspective, since we've been working on this. Man, seeing data fly into Splunk off of iRacing the first time and figuring out, all right, we did this and we connected the dots and we're getting data out of this iRacing platform, I think has been my second favorite perspective of this. Just that high you get when you can start to visualize the data and get insights out of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed your time spending time with us on the broadcast from the virtual race to conf, if you're into motorsports, you're into data, I highly encourage you not only tune in to Splunk.conf online starting tomorrow, but also be sure to tune into our session on Ladies and Gentlemen, Splunk Your Engines, a 30-minute breakout session at .conf, where we're going to talk about the ways that we collected the data, all the interesting insights we learned, and maybe a little bit of fun behind the scenes on how we made all this happen. Thank you all so much for participating. A huge thanks to our sponsors. You're incredible. And we will hopefully see you soon at the virtual race to .conf at VirtualConf 20. We'll see you there. Think you have what it takes to beat the beards on iRacing? Sign up at bigdatabeard.com/VR2C.